All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be at in the world today. I'm Clint Gatewood, Channel Chief here at SASMAX, and thank you for coming for our presentation today with ELO Digital Office. And we're going to be moving pretty quickly today, so everyone will be on mute this afternoon. So you can still ask your questions. If you just go into the question box and click on the question box and put your questions in, we will either try and answer them if it's really pertinent to the information that's being provided at that point in time, or we will take some time out towards the end for additional questions. So hang on, we're going to get moving here. We'll go to the next slide here, Dave, and really get started on the day. So I want to make as we transition here to the next slide. So great, I also want to make you aware of a special offer that is going on for all the SASMAX channel members and all the SASMAX community here. So there's a special offer from ELO on the contract management solution. The list price is typically $2,500, and you're going to get a really great discount to, until the 12th of July for any clients that you can, for a client that you can bring in with up to 5 users. So really looking forward to that. It's a great offer from them, and it's my pleasure to be able to introduce you Ovitas and David Prather and Daniel here, and they're going to introduce themselves. So go ahead and take it off, guys.
All right, thanks a lot. I'm David Prather. I work for Ovitas. I've been working in content management about 20 years. Here, you can take a look at me. And before that, I worked at Deloitte, Moody's. I've worked as an independent consultant. I've worked in Europe, and I've done just about every aspect of enterprise content management. So project management, business analysis, content strategy, sales, and so on. Also with me is Daniel Schottenhamel. He will be giving the demo in a few minutes, and he has many years of experience using ELO, the different products. He's integrated it with different systems, and he'll be able to really show you the power of the contract management module. Okay. So the agenda is basically we're going to talk about contract management today, why it's a challenge for businesses, and how ELO can address that challenge. After the demo, we'll give you some different aspects about the sales cycle and how you can get ELO out to your customers. But first, let's talk a little bit about ELO Digital Office. So ELO Digital Office is the company behind ELO. They've been around for many years. They have a global presence, a very stable product, regular releases that really keep up with the industry trends. It's agnostic, simply meaning that you sell it by functional area rather than to any specific type of business. So, you know, the finance, accounting, operations, HR, that's really where the target personas are found. It's also pretty easy to learn. So if you're already a Microsoft reseller, ELO is a gold partner. So a lot of what you'll see in the demo is going to look familiar to anyone who's used Office before. So ELO, it's sold over in 40 countries. It's translated in different languages. There's 850 partners worldwide, of which Ovitas is one, and 750,000 different licensed users right now. So that really makes ELO very widespread across the globe. So let's talk about the challenge real quick. Why is contract management a challenge? Well, it's a challenge for the business, and sort of how do we address it? Well, the contract life cycle is complex, right? You control some aspects of the contract cycle, and whoever you're negotiating with controls other aspects. You need governance. Why? Well, contracts are legally enforceable, so you need to ensure that what you're agreeing to is really what you want to agree to, right? You need the right people to authorize modifications. You need to do it in a timely manner, and you need those tools to make sure you have the control over that. Renewals, terminations, think if you're a landlord, a significant part of your day-to-day business is, lease renewals and terminations, and you need to know when you need to address those items. In terms, right? Think about, at the end of the day, it's all about cash flow, right? Those aspects need to be analyzed, and somehow, at some point, they need to be integrated with your accounting solution, right? And then finally, these are records, and business records need to follow different policies, statutes. Maybe you have something with state and local government, And you know, for those that don't know about business documentation like contracts, you need to keep them as long as you need them and no longer, right? That's basically document management 101. So how does ELO meet this, right? How does it meet the challenge? Well, that's out of the box workflows, right? Those are something that you'll see in the demo. So you don't have to start from scratch. You basically have something already there for you for contract management. Governance. ELO makes sure that the right users have the right access, the security controls throughout the contract lifecycle, right? Which you can see on the screen there. Monitor. You need to be able to set up alerts and reminders, which you can do in the application. You can do it via email, but you need to make sure that when the contracts are renewed, when they're up for renegotiation, that you're aware of it. You can also use built-in reports to show the status of your different contracts. When's your cash coming in? And then really, ELO is built on top of, the contract module is built on top of a really powerful document management system. So that it helps you manage the entire document lifecycle from drafting to termination all the way to archiving, okay? So I'm gonna turn it over to Daniel now, who's gonna give you a demo that basically shows you a lot of the features that I've just gone over, all right? So we're gonna switch seats and I'll give it to Daniel. There we go.
Thank you, David. Let me drag over my screen here. So first of all, some things that David already kind of touched on. So this is what you would call in ELO the landing page. So, and he also mentioned the Microsoft look and feel. So for example, you see the tiles here and you also see the ribbons. But for today, we're going to focus on the contract module. So here I have logged in as a demo user. It's a standard user in ELO. For example, I can review the repository. It's a very simple one. Currently, there's a contract management folder. Now, at this state, want to create a new contract. So we have different processes built into place here. You have create, initiate approval, negotiate contract, contract conclusion, cancel negotiation, and initiate termination. And then also what David mentioned about is the reporting and other functionality within ELO. As an example, create a document, PDF, cover pages, etc. So let's start with the create contracts. First thing is I, as a user, click on create contract. First we see here is we have the ability to have multiple contract types, meaning they can have different forms, they can have different workflows, different approval processes put into place, and you can have as many different types as you need. And also everything is access rights driven. That's very key as well. So for our example, we're going to click on standard contract. I, as the user, get the form in ELO here, and this is a standard form. Again, everything is built to be tailored. So if you need to change the form, the approval process, everything here can be changed. Nothing is coded, or you don't even need to code for that matter. So as an example, I'm going to give it a contract. I'm going to give it a title. So we'll call it contract 40. So as again, it told me, okay, what's the category type, contracts, and then it also said standard contract. If I clicked a different one, it would fill out, and we'll see that later why that's relevant. So some other fields, as an example, we have the status field. It's currently in draft. I'm creating it. And again, also something that David mentioned was the ability to hook into an ERP system. So SAP, Sage, Navision, etc. So here, for example, we have a company code. We may have multiple. In our demo instance, we're going to do Contalo. And again, here, this ties into the approval process, which we will see later, where we have the ability to, this user is responsible for the contract just to get a notification at the end once it's been approved. And this, we also have departments, contract conclusions. Again, some other aspects being able to tie into cost accounting here as well. Again, tying back into ERP, we have projects. And if there are fields or forms, fields that you do or do not want, you simply just add and remove onto the form. And again, as I mentioned, if one contract type needs to be modified to a different form or process flow, it can be done so. And we also have dynamic forms here. So example, there's fixed terms, then there's permanent. I'm going to go with fixed. So as an example, I'm going to expect the contract to start today. Now here, as an example, I'm going to say 1 year is a duration, and it dynamically pull it in the contract term end date. Here, if I say this is going to be a quarterly, it automatically changes it. But let's just for today leave it at 1 year. There was some other things that David mentioned, so termination, reminders, all these notifications that can be sent to the end users and escalated if they're not acted on in a timely manner. So as an example now, the next thing we're going to do is now who's the partner? Who are we working with? So this is where you would set up your company. Again, all can be tied to the ERP system or whichever system of records needs to be holding this information. And within ELO, they also built their contact types, management as well. So if you would prefer ELO to handle the contacts, you could do so. I could just, if this contact didn't exist, I could simply just click and create it. But for today, I'm going to click on ABC company. So we have a company ID, some information about this company that fills out dynamically. So now cash flow. So we're talking about ELO today, so let's just do a setup fee for the initial. And we'll say we'll start the setup on the 25th. It's a one-time thing, and it'll be, we expect payment on the 25th. We'll say amount 100,000. Now the next one is consulting fee. So again, we will say, let's say that the consulting, we plan on scheduling that a week after install. And then we expect this, we will say, actually, let's go for a full year. It's a year project. So we'll go to the end of June 2020. Now here, if I click on, say that we expect payment quarterly, we just say, okay, what's the quarterly amount that we expect? Again, we'll do 100,000. So it did 400,000. So here you see the total, and ELO, it's a multi-currency system. So again, here you see if I chose a different currency, it would automatically convert to local sum. In our example, I'm going to leave it with USD. So now at this point, what happens is I click on create contract. Now what we will see is it builds out the folder structure, and the folder structure, again, configurable. So you just need to do some changes in the setting. You just need to tell it where you want these contracts to be stored. So in this example, it's under contract management, then contracts. And then I remember earlier, I selected on contract type. So it broke it out and it built it under contract, standard contract, and then by the name of the company. And here we see our 40. So if I click on form, we see the same form that we filled out. So now the next step in this process would be to let's initiate an approval process. So as an example, I, as this user, click on initiate approval. Again, a form comes up and I say, okay, good to be approved. Here we see that some steps are put into place. This goes back to the approval process that David mentioned earlier, where in this instance, we have management needs to approve it, and then we also set up an additional user to approve it as well. And we see that they're mandatory, meaning that they cannot simply say, I don't want to partake in this. I'm going to have to take in this. And then on top of that, we can add users manually if needed. So you don't need to change the workflows or anything. You dynamically can add users as necessary. So I'm going to say, let's start the approval process. I see a task here. Again, we can have email notifications being sent, and here I see a task. Again, I see it, it says accept the workflow, because currently it's sent to a group, and up until the point where I accept it, meaning I as the user, everybody has full visibility now that I am working on this. So again, if I needed to add additional structure or add more content to this, more documentations, emails, correspondence, contract documents along with it, you simply can just add that here. And the folder structure is also based on the contract type, which is also configurable. So now I'm going to simply just say approved. And the next step will be, we can see already who's going to be the next user groups. So I click on approved, and now I'm going to drag over. I want to show multiple platforms, meaning now we're logged in as demo user here, and we see that I'm in a browser. So ELO works with all the standard browsers, Internet Explorer, Edge, Mozilla, and Chrome. So here again, I see a task, and on the right here we see the feed. This is an audit trail, one form of audit trail in ELO. There are multiple. This one is more related to workflow of process. So we see who started it, who approved it, who initiated, etc. And again, here I could do what I did before, is I could review the contents of the contract, I can review the information, and if at certain stages you need to allow users to see certain fields, but in other stages you don't. Again, all configurable. So in our instance, I say good to be approved. And now I simply click on approve down here. Now, what we also talked about is we talked about the contracts dashboard. So here, if I click on contract tile, it'll dynamically load up your contracts. And here we see the different statuses. Again, configurable. If your end customer has a different statuses that they adhere to, you just simply change the statuses. So here we see, for example, we have 6 approved. So if I want to see all the approved and nothing else, I simply just click it and we see it dynamically builds the dashboard for us. And here we see our contract 40. If I wanted to view the details of this contract without jumping anywhere, I can simply do so by just clicking on the contract itself. If I wanted to say, for example, since they're a Microsoft Gold partner, they've embedded some additional functionality where you can group it similar to Excel. So here you see your breakdown of the chart. Now, what if I also wanted to see a timeline view? You can simply see a timeline view here of all your different contracts. And as they would get closer to expiration, they would go from different statuses, so different colorings, to orange, to getting close to expired, or red expired. And then there's also the calendar view. So within here, we see another view. I click on year, and we see within the years, it breaks down. You see a little icon here. I can simply drill down, and then I see the contracts, and I can click on the contracts. Again, no need to search, no need to go anywhere. You simply just drill from the top down. So, and as David mentioned, there are different reportings built into it. We have different contract documentation that can be created, and we have labels that can be also generated. But in a nutshell, this is a really brief overview of the contract module, and I hope that you've gained interest into the ELO contract module, and hopefully you can see value of how it can help provide input to your potential customers. With that, I'm going to hand it back to David.
Yeah, before you go, just one question there, since it's on the technical piece, is does ELO work on browsers used by Macs?
Yes, yeah, you're talking about Safari? If the question is Safari, yes.
On Safari, yes. Any other browsers on Mac?
I would have to look into that, but
okay.
It should. I mean, it works on Mac as well. It works on Mac, it works on iOS, Android. So they're very good at making it across platforms, and the same look and feel across all those platforms on top.
Okay. Rodney, if you need more clarification there, just type in another question. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you, Danny. All right. All right. So, how do you make ELO contract management work for you? Well, basically, once you get the sales pipeline going, it's pretty straightforward. You can bundle it with your core solutions, right? Depending on what else you sell. Basically, if you understand what your customers need, from a document management perspective, you'll be able to offer them value by using the ELO Contract Management module. It's priced right, as you'll see. We have the special offer, but in general, it's not a very expensive product to begin with. It's easy to deploy, standard Microsoft server technology. It's very scalable. It's open and flexible, as Daniel mentioned. It runs on different browsers. It also runs on Windows, Linux. It can use different databases. It's very flexible from that perspective. And of course, what we showed you in the demo, it's got some out-of-the-box workflows to just make the implementation a lot faster, right? Now, what might you do to sell it as a business solution, right? Well, you need some sort of business need in order to address it with ELO, right? There's no problem, there's no need. Find out who's asking for this. What we hear a lot is that we get contact from somebody and they say, oh, well, our CEO or our CFO is looking for something, which is a lot better than, oh, well, it's Joe in accounts receivable or accounts payable. So listen to the, who really needs this? Do they control the budget? Now listen for keywords, right? Internal control, audit, efficiency, all those things generally mean that the company's ready to spend some money to get the right solution, right? They're not looking for the minimal solution. They're looking for something that really gets the job done. One thing you need to do, though, of course, is to quantify, right? And that's when I say that, it's how many customers, how many documents, how many users, because that really is going to help you figure out what do they need, right? Do they have a big solution? Is it a small solution? What is it? And give them a demo, just like what we showed you. Expand it a bit, find out what they're really looking for and focus on that. But, when they see the product, when they recognize, hey, it does look a lot like Microsoft Office, that'll perk up their interest. Pushback, yeah, sometimes we get that, right? We use SharePoint, so, without bashing SharePoint, which I'm a fan of for the right occasions, kind of say, look, SharePoint is a collaboration tool, right? It's not a contract management system, and that's what ELO is. It's a contract management system. Value, right? You have to say, well, how does this compare with other, say, back office tools that you use or tools in general? One thing we can do is say, all right, everyone uses Salesforce. We know that the pro version is $75 a month. This is less than $75 a month, right, per user. So you can kind of put it in terms that people are already familiar with. And then the implementation, and I'm going to go back to, quantity, quantify. It's like, how long does it take? Well, how big's the ocean? It depends. And really the three factors that you need to consider are, how many documents, how many people, are we migrating anything? Are we going from an existing system to a new one, or is it just going to be brand new? And then integration. Do we need to integrate with another tool? Those are the things that can really, lengthen the sales cycle. But if you don't have migration, you don't have integration, it's pretty straightforward. What's a typical profile? Well, maybe 5-10 users. Deal close 4 weeks. That's not necessarily, 20 days of work, right? It might be a couple days a month, and it may take 4 to 6 weeks, but it doesn't take too long because it's not that expensive, right? You target, it's cross-market, as I mentioned earlier. It's independent of vertical industries. It's really about functional, the functions within the business. So accounting, construction, financial services. We've got clients all over the place, right? Pricing, at the beginning we showed you the special offer for the contract module, but basically ELO Professional, $14.30 per license. That's the list price. So for contract management, it's $1,000 off for the next month. What you get is 18% annual maintenance fee is sort of recurring revenue you get. And I'll kind of show you, just for example, on the next slide, what that looks like over a year. And there is subscription-based licensing available, right? So let's say you sell just 5 licenses a month, just 5. Well, your sales, at the end of 1 year, or 5 a month, is almost $140,000, and your profit is $30K. Not too bad, right? There's no minimum commitment, and you do get the support of ELO to help you get through that. So what are some of those perks, right? Perks of being a partner. You get a development license, so you can test it out yourself. You get training. There are no quotas, as I just mentioned. Co-branded materials. You get co-branding for events you might attend. There's also public relations support. There are different ELO certifications available, and there's a lot of product support. Once you have access to what's called the ELO Partner Portal, you can get all of the marketing materials, all of the manuals, and all the information you need to really not just learn about the contract management module, but all the other pieces that ELO has. So you need more information. info-usa@elo.com or visit www.elo.com. So what I want to do now, I just want to leave you with this thought, right? It's a very good product. We've been using it and selling it for over a year now. right? It's relatively new to the US, but it's very solid. It does solve a lot of business problems, you know. And I just say, if your prospect has some sort of document management challenge, this product really does sell itself. So that's what we have today. We were happy to take some questions and answer anything that that you might have for us.
Great, fantastic. So good presentation. I've learned a lot here myself today, so it looks a solid product, and you seem to be doing very well with it. So it's definitely something that I can see a lot of partners wanting. So one of the questions here, another question was, does it work with MS Project? And I think maybe really the overall arching question might be, does it work, you know, what all does it work with Microsoft, like O365 and all the different pieces they might be using? But the one question was specifically about MS Project.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't integrate with Project because you know, it's not really it doesn't really more of document management than project management. Now, granted, with workflows and so on, you can see where there's maybe a parallel. But you know, it does integrate with a lot of different products. Office, you know, the suite for PowerPoint, Excel, Word, either offline or Office 365. SharePoint, it does integrate with SharePoint, which kind of, you know, goes to the point that it's, you know, SharePoint is not what ELO is. And also with Microsoft's Dynamics Navision product, their ERP package. So again, being a gold partner, there is a lot of you know, areas where it does integrate quite tightly with that Microsoft ecosystem.
Great. So another question is, being that the company's you know, fairly large organization, is this the only product you have, or do you have other solutions that resellers can take that they could use and sell to their clients?
Well, you know, their core tool is around content management, they call it, right? And that's really a broad set of products. It can be, you know, there are special excuse me, modules for HR, for knowledge management, in addition to document management, contract management, etc. I think if you go to elo.com, they have a really good layout that kind of goes through the products and the solutions. So that might be a good starting place to you know, see what other areas might, you know, fit in with what your you know, what your customers are looking for.
Yeah, and I think ELO's done a good job too from their website to really kind of break it out by vertical as well. They got some good vertical case studies and different pieces to help partners understand how it fits in and the value for different industries, as well as, you know, sizes of clients. So it's a really good website to get some information from on how to sell it and how to take it there.
Yeah.
On those pieces. So do you work with a lot of different MSPs out in the marketplace today, and how do they utilize it? Are they just, you know, they selling the product? Are they wrapping services around it? What are they doing with it today?
Yeah, I think again, it's a solution where it comes in handy when you're in there for some other reason. So you definitely have opportunities to cross sell it. You know, we work with different areas, and I'd say one big one is when you get an SAP installation, right? SAP, that particular ERP package, right? It does what it's supposed to do, right? It's your accounting system, it's your you know, your inventory management system, and ELO, you know, specifically for SAP, has an integration that just lets the information flow back and forth. So it complements ERP systems, SAP in particular, very well.
Okay, great, excellent. And really, we'll take one more question here today on your support and the support of the particular product. So now, is the partner expected to install everything, and then with that, is there any level 1 support that they are required to do, or level 2 support, or is it pretty much just right back to ELO? And I guess part of that question would be, are there service packages they could put around the support if that support is expected of them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the thing about ELO, especially at we'll call it the smaller packages where you're not integrating with some other system like SAP, it's because it's mature, because it's really solid, you install it and you kind of, you know, without saying, you kind of collect the, the maintenance fees year after year. There's not a lot to do. There aren't a lot of patches that you need to install or anything. It's really just an annual upgrade. And to be honest, really a lot of the customers are very comfortable just, installing it themselves. Now, for those who do want additional support, that's something that you can offer. Now, typically you'd need to go through some ELO training in order to be able to, diagnose issues or whatever. But for the most part, the way we see it is, we offer support, but then at the same time, it's really kind of runs itself. And what we really do is we try to look at ways where we can help them, with more, solving more business issues, business needs using ELO. I think a lot of times people start using it and they're like, hey, I could use this for this different workflow, or I could use this for this other process that I didn't think about before. So one of the things you do for support is really, become the trusted advisor and, help themselves. And in the meantime, you basically get to sell more ELO licenses.
Excellent, fantastic. I do have one more question here.
Yep.
When do you see some partners, so, if the client wants us to do the install, or if they're not comfortable doing it themselves, do you see them charging for those installs for, some kind of a project that they do for them and charge for the install, or not typically?
Oh, yeah, sure. Because, nobody, you don't work for free when you provide a service. It's reasonable to be able to charge for that. We do it all the time. Sometimes there's just, depending on the level of sophistication that, the partner has, if they already have, in-house Microsoft Office, gurus and, Windows and SQL Server and all that, it's no problem. But when they don't, that's where we come in and we can say, hey, we'll do that. It doesn't take long. It's not like a huge, long process or contract, but, set something up with them so that, they have that, call it peace of mind, where they can call you if they have questions about something, if they maybe need a workflow set up slightly differently. These are simple things you can do that, the average business user doesn't know how to do, but once you learn ELO a little bit better, it's very easy for you to be able to offer those kinds of services.
Okay, great, David. I really appreciate that. It looks like you're having a great day there in Boston, too.
Yeah, like yesterday. It was raining. Ooh.
Yeah, fun. So let's move on to, I got a couple just little notes at the end here. If we want to go on to the next slide there, David, that would be fantastic. We do have another webinar coming up next week. It's one of the final ones that we're doing with the LogMeIn product, so it's LastPass and Central, so don't miss out on that. We'll be reaching out to you on that. Also, don't forget about the great special that ELO is running, so we'll be in touch with all of our partners and everyone that was on here or registered didn't make it, as well as others. So, get in while you can and make a little bit of that extra money as you can make it on that 5-user deal that they have there. It's like $1,000 off MSRP, it looks like.
Yep.
For you. So that's a fantastic way to get started and even run your own contracts at that price. I mean, that's a pretty good price for you.
Exactly.
To do that. So, but don't forget about the webinar, and we'll be with LogMeIn as well. And to the last slide, wanting more information, getting a hold of ELO. Obviously, you can look at their websites, you can do all those things, but I'm the channel chief here. Reach out to me, reach out to your cloud SaaS strategist. You can reach out to Brigant as well, and Shauna, your channel success manager that's out there. And again, if you're not familiar with them, please do get a hold of me, because I'd like to know why. So very good. Have a great day, and thank you, David. Thank you,
Daniel.
Daniel, yeah, I knew that's what the name was, but I just couldn't get it off my tongue. Daniel, and for ELO for putting this together. Everyone have a great day whether you're at the beginning or at the end, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.